The story begins with a group from the team of explorers who were in the South Atlantic. It occurs within Oceanian waters. On that ship, there was a weather officer named David, who worked as a weatherman. He tells the forecast. Those people came from such an island. They were heading into the middle of the sea. That is why the government placed David there, so he could observe the shifting seasons of that island. David had to remain there for 1 year to collect the weather data across the full year and return it after the collection was complete. David was provided food for the entire year. All supplies were delivered in advance. After many days of journey, he finally reached the island. There, the people landed with the help of a boat. This island was entirely deserted. Nowhere was even a bird visible. On that island stood a lighthouse and a small house, where David was to live. Because before this, there had been a weather officer named Robert, but now his duty was over. He had lived alone for a year, collecting weather data upon the island. Now in his place, David would remain for the full year to collect data, while the old officer returned with the ship. But when the whole team visited the house, they were surprised, for there was no sign of any human there. Inside the room, the belongings of the old officer were scattered everywhere. After this, the captain and David suspected that perhaps someone was inside the lighthouse. Captain and David immediately moved toward the lighthouse, and there everyone witnessed a strange sight. They saw the entire lighthouse encircled with sharp wooden stakes, as though someone had deliberately blocked it, so no one could enter inside. After this, the captain and David knocked at the gate of the lighthouse repeatedly, but no response came from within. At last, he forced the gate open and stepped inside. Within the lighthouse, they found a man named Gruner. When asked about Weather Officer Robert, he replied that Robert was dead. He had gone to the sea, but never returned. Hearing Gruner's words, both David and the captain were stunned. After this, the captain said to David, "If you still wish to return with us, you can." But David refused to go back. David thought that since he was chosen by the government, he must give an accurate weather report of the island, so he could earn a lot of money. Later, the captain himself gave him a gun for protection and told David that this place did not seem safe to him. He advised, "Take care of yourself." After that, everyone departed, leaving David alone there. They would return again after a year. After the captain left, David arranged the house and made it somewhat habitable. As night fell, he discovered a diary in the drawer, an old record of Weather Officer Robert. In that diary, much was written about the island itself. Notes about a mysterious creature were scattered through the diary, but everything was unclear. Some details were incomplete. David read every line with care. Within the diary, sketches of strange animals were drawn. David could not understand why such drawings were made. Perhaps Robert had been lonely and sketched them to pass the time. On one page of the diary, there was also a photo of Robert's wife. David kept reading until his eyes grew tired, and he slowly drifted to sleep. The next morning, David began to gather the weather data. But when he neared the sea, his steps paused. He noticed that some stones were strangely arranged among the rocks, decorated with shells placed between them. David thought they formed a strange pattern, perhaps the work of Gruner. With that thought, he returned to his duties. While working, he glanced at the lighthouse through his telescope. There he saw another person standing with Gruner, but in the blink of an eye, that figure vanished. David looked again, trying to confirm it, but then dismissed it as an illusion. At night, David remained busy with his work. Suddenly there was a knock at the door. He thought perhaps it was Gruner. David called out his name, but no reply came. Lamp in hand, David moved toward the door. Then strange sounds echoed, not like a human at all. Looking beneath the gate, he saw a strange claw reaching in, trying to grasp. It was not a human hand. David's legs nearly gave way. He rushed to the basement and hid there. Soon, the mysterious creature forced its way inside the house, searching secretly for David. Through a narrow crack, the creature spotted him. In an instant, it lunged to kill, thrusting its claws through the crack. David, in desperation, seized a knife and stabbed its eye, wounding it. The creature fled screaming, but David knew it might return. Now he understood the diary's warnings were true. He could not sleep that night, haunted by fear. The next morning, as he stepped outside, he saw fresh footprints in the sand. The trail led toward the sea. David realized why Gruner had placed sharp stakes around the lighthouse. Now David knew. If he stayed in this house, the creature might kill him at any time. Terrified, David ran to the lighthouse, shouting for Gruner to open the gate. "I want to come inside." But Gruner refused, telling him, "You should have returned with the ship." David went back in despair. Gruner had no wish to help him. He poured water down at David and ordered him away. Now David had to rely on himself. He sealed every window of the house with wood, built fences on all sides, and at the gate stacked old papers and books. Upon them he poured oil, so if the creature returned, he could drive it back with fire. But there was one thing David still did not know, and he was about to learn it that night. Inside the house, he discovered an old box. Within that box lay a gun and many bullets. Seeing this gave him a faint hope of survival. As the sun slowly sank, David's fear grew. Soon the darkness of night spread across everything. David, gun in hand, sat silently in a corner of the house. His heart pounded rapidly. Suddenly, a strange sound echoed, and when David cautiously peered toward the sea through the window, the ground seemed to slip away beneath his feet. He saw not one, but many strange creatures rising from the water, all advancing toward him. Within moments, they gathered together, trying to break the door. David instantly began firing bullets. Some creatures fell and died. David thought the noise of the shots would frighten the rest away. But instead, watching their companions die only made them angrier. So David turned to his plan. He set fire to the papers and old books piled outside the gate. The flames blazed, and the creatures, terrified, retreated back into the sea. Yet the fire now spread toward David's house. The wooden door caught, flames climbing as the entire house began burning. David wrapped himself quickly in a sheet, rushed outside, and hid behind a large stone near the lighthouse. While shooting the creatures, David's hand had received a deep wound. Suddenly, heavy rain poured down. The fire slowly subsided. Yet after an entire night of rain, by morning, David could not save his house. Nearly everything was reduced to ashes. Now, if David wished to live, he would have to find refuge in the lighthouse. He lifted his rifle and concealed himself among the stones near it, waiting for Gruner to emerge for water. When Gruner came out to fetch water, David followed behind him. But suddenly, a strange creature standing near Gruner attacked David. Somehow David overpowered it. The creature was Gruner's guardian. Just as David prepared to shoot, Gruner stopped him. "Do not fire," he cried. "This is my pet." David spared its life and seized the chance to bargain with Gruner. If he wished to keep the creature alive, he must allow David to stay in the lighthouse. Otherwise, David would kill it. Gruner agreed, for David still had food and gunpowder. Before evening, they carried the remaining supplies to the lighthouse and rested there. The next morning, David awoke to find the creature quietly licking his injured hand. To his shock, the wound had healed. David was amazed. He wanted to learn more about this creature from Gruner and dreamed of revealing it to the world, for it was nothing less than magic. David imagined if they shared its secret, both he and Gruner could gain wealth and fame. But Gruner wanted none of it. He had no desire to leave the island. For him, this island was perfect. He had no one left in the world, and here he considered himself king, ruler of his own will. That was why Gruner had carved messages across the island, declaring himself its master. Yet David wondered how such a strange creature had become so loyal. Gruner explained that once he had saved its life. It had been trapped in his fishing net when still small. From that day onward, it had stayed with him, obeying his every command. But Gruner was a harsh man. He treated it cruelly. Every day he forced relations with it. He told David once it had attacked him, and in return he gave such punishment that the creature thereafter accepted itself as his slave. And now David understood why every night the other creatures emerged from the sea. They came only to rescue their companion from Gruner, but Gruner never allowed it. Those creatures could not attack in daylight, for the sunlight burned their skin. David now longed to escape the island, to somehow free himself. As evening fell, Gruner ordered him to ready his gun, for the creatures could attack at any time. Together they prepared to light the lighthouse. Soon, from the sea, a vast number of creatures emerged. They advanced steadily toward the lighthouse. Gruner fired without pause, but David was terrified. Instead of fighting, he withdrew deeper inside, sitting silently in a corner despite Gruner's commands. Within moments, David fainted. Gruner battled the creatures alone through the night. At dawn, furious, he splashed water on David's face to wake him. "If you wish to survive," he shouted, "you must kill them. Otherwise you will be driven out of the lighthouse, and you must obey me in everything. Fetch water daily. Do all chores within the lighthouse. At night stand guard with me." David had no other choice. It became his compulsion. Now David followed Gruner's every order. Yet one thing troubled him deeply. Every day, that female creature was treated in a different way.